Hey everyone, in this video we are going to talk about Hiragana and Katakana. Let's talk a bit about written Japanese. Written Japanese is a mix of 4 different alphabets, you can say. There is Hiragana, Katakana, Kanji, and Romaji. Romaji literally just means Roman letters, meaning the Latin alphabet that we use in English. Kanji are Chinese characters that were once borrowed into Japanese, but have been slightly adjusted to be used in the Japanese language. Hiragana and Katakana are Japan's own original syllabaries, meaning an alphabet of syllables, made by simplifying kanji with similar sounds around 1,000 years ago. The syllables in these syllabaries are commonly referred to as mora. Learning to read hiragana and katakana is one of the most crucial steps in order to improve one's Japanese, as most dictionaries teaching kanji will use hiragana and katakana to represent the sounds of the kanji. Also, children's books are going to be using hiragana and katakana before you learn the Chinese characters as well. Learning to read hiragana and katakana is all about spaced repetition by using flashcards, either handwritten or a website or an app that offers virtual flashcards. This has traditionally been done by making handwritten cards, but in the modern era there are tons of different applications you can use to make digital flashcards. The most popular one is Anki, which I have another course page or YouTube video about how to set up and start using. In the beginning, you'll be making lots of mistakes, but the more you try, the less mistakes you make until it's stuck with you forever. Most people spend somewhere between 1 week and a weekend maybe learning each syllabary using the spaced repetition method. In this video, I'm going to be showing you quickly how the hiragana and katakana look. I'm going to explain to you how they're pronounced, and when you're done watching the video, you should download the Anki decks and use the flashcards to memorize them yourself. The first hiragana and katakana we'll be learning are called the gojuon, which literally means 50 sounds. These are the first 50 mora that hiragana and katakana have. After we've learned those, we'll be learning how to modify them in order to create new sounds. The good thing about Japanese is that the ways you can modify these sounds are exactly the same in katakana as they are in hiragana. And as you'll see soon, the mora we have in hiragana and katakana contain the exact same sounds. The reason for this is that both syllabaries can be used to write the exact same thing. Why do we need 2 alphabets then, you might ask yourself? You can sort of think of hiragana and katakana as uppercase and lowercase letters in English. We don't really need to use more than 1 case, technically, but we've arbitrarily chosen to write the first letter in sentences or in names, or abbreviations generally are written with uppercase letters while everything else is lowercase. Japanese is doing something similar. So in Japanese, katakana is generally used to write foreign names or words imported into Japanese, while hiragana is used to write anything else. Collectively, hiragana and katakana are referred to as just kana. So let's look at the first 50 sounds. The way that hiragana and katakana are structured is that you have the 5 vowels of Japanese, a, I, U, E, O, and then you have the same vowels with consonants in front of them. Japanese will never have a consonant by itself except n, which we'll get to later. The letters are mostly pronounced how you would assume they are, but there are some exceptions where the sound is a bit different, and I'll explain why they are. For the ka, ro, we have ka, ki, ku, ke, ko. Also notice here, the u sound in Japanese is generally written with the letter u in English, but it's not pronounced the same as any u sounds are in English. In Japanese, the letter u is pronounced at the top of your mouth, at the back of your throat, with unrounded lips. It's not u, it's not u, it's not u, but it's u. Some older Japanese speakers may pronounce it with more rounding of the lips, u, u, but the general pronunciation is u, a, I, U, E, O. The e sound is also relatively sharp. It's closer to the roof of your mouth, similar to the English words care or hair, as opposed to the e sound closer to the bottom of your mouth that we have in words like guess or hell. For the sa row, we have sa, shi, su, se, so. And you'll notice here that shi is not pronounced as si, but it's shi. This sound is similar to the SH sound in English. It's generally written as an SH when you romanize Japanese into English, but the sh sound in English is a bit thicker. The shi sound in Japanese is more palatalized, meaning that your tongue is closer to the hard palate in your mouth where the y sound is made. So make sure you pronounce it as shi and not as shi. Sa, shi, su, se, so. For the ta row, we have ta, chi, tsu, te, to. You'll notice here as well that the e sound here is not t, but it's chi. It's romanized as chi, and similarly to how chi in English is she but with a t in front, chi in Japanese is the same as the previous shi but with a tiny t in front. Chi. For the u sound here, we get something called an affrication. Instead of tu, we get tsu. So the t is sort of stretched out a tiny bit here. This is similar to how some British English speakers might say it instead of it. For the na row, we have na, ni, nu, ne, no, which is as expected. For the ha row, we have ha, hi, hu, he, ho. Similarly, the e and the u sound here are different from the others. Ha, he, and ho are the same as we have in English. He here is a palatal fricative, very similar to the h in the English word hue. If you speak German, this is also the same sound as in ich, the word for I in German. For hu, it's generally spelled with an F in English because it sounds like the English F. The difference between the Japanese sound here is that when you say it in English, your upper teeth bite your lower lip. So you say fu, fu. When you say the F sound in Japanese, it's very important that your teeth do not hit your lips. You're only blowing air through both of your lips. Hu, hu, instead of fu, fu. For the ma row, we have ma, mi, mu, me, mo, which is as you would expect. For the ya row, we only have ya, you, yo. And for the ra row, we have ra, ri, ru, re, ro. This sound has traditionally been hard for English native speakers to pronounce, but this is the sound that you have in the American English pronunciation of words like better or butter. If you do a quick flap with your tongue, you get this r sound. Better, butter. Cut the be, r, cut the r, ra, ri, ru, re, ro. For the wa row, we have wa and o. The first thing you may or may not have noticed is that wa is not pronounced the same as wa in English. When you say wa in English, it is a combination of the vowels u and a. Wa, wa. But when you say it in Japanese, it is a combination of the sound u and a. So it's wa, wa. The other sound in the wa row is spelled with a W, but it's pronounced exactly the same as the vowel by itself, o. You may sometimes hear it pronounced as wo, but this is usually in singing, in music only. In standard Japanese, normally it's pronounced as o. The last sound here is generally taught to be pronounced as but there is more to it than that, which we will get to near the end of the video. Those were the gojuon, the first 50 sounds. Now we're going to see how they look like in katakana. These are going to be exactly the same sounds, but this is how you write them in katakana. A, I, U, E, O. Ka, ki, ku, ke, ko. Sa, shi, su, se, so. Ta, chi, tsu, te, to. Na, ni, nu, ne, no. Ha, hi, hu, he, ho. Ma, mi, mu, me, mo. Ya, you, yo. ra, ri, ru, re, ro, wa, o, Now that we've learned the gojuon, the first base syllables of Japanese, it's time to start modifying the mora to make new sounds. The first modification we're going to learn is called voicing. To understand how voicing works, let's first think about how vowels and consonants are made in the first place. To explain it very simply, you can change what sound comes out of your mouth in 3 ways. The first one is changing the position of your tongue inside your mouth, either from front to back or from top to bottom. The second way is letting air come out of your nose, and the third way is vibrating your vocal cords. This third point here is what we call voicing. If you take, for instance, the consonants P, T, K and say them out while grasping your throat, P, T, K, you'll notice that there is no vibration. If you then say B, D, G, like B, D, G, you'll notice that your vocal cords are now vibrating. Inside of your mouth, your tongue is in the exact same position, but the only difference here is whether or not you're vibrating your vocal cords. The sounds P, T, and K are called unvoiced consonants or voiceless consonants, while B, D, and G are called voiced consonants. Now, why is this important? If you've paid attention so far, you might have noticed that the first gojuon are all unvoiced consonants. The reason why is that in order to make voiced versions of the mora we've learned so far, we need to add this special mark to them. This mark is called dakten, and it's written as 2 apostrophes. Dakten literally means voice mark. The dakten can be added to the ka, sa, ta, and ha row, which will modify them like this. Ga, gi, gu, ge, go. Da, ji, z, ze, zo. For the sa row with dakten, it's generally romanized as a z, but the sound can be both a z sound and a z with a tiny d in front. So either da, ji, z, ze, zo, or za, ji, z, ze, zo. As the first syllable of a word, it always has a d in front. Da, ji, z, de, do. Ba, bi, bu, be, bo. Even though it's called a voice mark, ba is technically not a voiced version of ha, but ba is still written with dakten on ha. We also have another mark called handakten, which is written as a tiny circle, literally meaning half voice mark. The name is a bit confusing, but what it does is you can use it on the ha row to make it into a p. So it's pa, pi, pu, pe, po. Let's see the katakana as well. Ga, gi, gu, ge, go. Da, ji, z, ze, zo. Da, ji, z, de, do. Ba, bi, bu, be, bo. And then with handakten, pa, pi, pu, pe, po. I also want to mention here that the ga sound in Japanese may sometimes be pronounced nasally as nga, ngi, ngu, nge, ngo, while the standard pronunciation is ga, gi, gu, ge, go. You might sometimes hear it nasalized, so don't be confused if you hear that too. In addition to the diacritics dakten and handakten, we also have another modification called yoon. Yoon means adding a slight y sound to a mora, which we in linguistics call palatalization. In Japanese, this is done by writing a kana with an e sound and then writing a half size ya, yu, or yo after it. Let's take a look at how these sound. Kya, kyu, kyo. Sha, shu, sho. Cha, chu, cho. Nya, nyu, nyo. Hya, hyu, hyo. Mya, myu, myo. Rya, ryu, ryo. Gya, gyu, gyo. Ja, ju, jo. Bya, byu, byo. And pya, pyu, pyo. This is of course exactly the same with katakana. Kya, kyu, kyo. sha, shu, sho, cha, chu, cho, nya, nyu, nyo, hya, hyu, hyo, mya, myu, myo, rya, ryu, ryo, kya, kyu, kyo, ja, ju, jo, pya, pyu, pyo, and pya, pyu, pyo. The next modification we can do is called sokuon or gemination. Gemination is the concept of double consonants. You can think of gemination, Gemini, twins. In Japanese, we write double consonants with a half-sized tsu. A small tsu before a consonant means we put our tongue in the position to say that sound, but we have a quick pause before making the sound. Compare these examples. Gaki, gaki, gakki, gakki, mate, mate, matte, matte. Double consonants are a big part of the Japanese language as they are used to separate similar words and to form grammatical structures with vastly different meanings. So make sure to practice saying them correctly. Gemination with nasal consonants, n, and b, is always written with n instead of tsu. Shinbun, ammari, onna. The last modification we're going to learn is called vowel lengthening or choon. Japanese syllables can be lengthened in a few ways. If you're writing in Hiragana, you follow these rules. Double A is A, double E is E, double U is U, double A is E, sometimes spelled E, but mostly E. Double O is O-U, but sometimes spelled O-O as well. Here are some examples of words with long vowels written in Hiragana. Sensei, sensei. Natto, natto. Imoto, imoto. When writing in Katakana, we use a separate symbol that looks like a dash. It's a long line that indicates that the previous mores vowel will be twice as long. Here are some examples. Keiki, keiki. Kohi, kohi. Target, target. The last thing we're going to talk about in this video is hatsuon. Hatsuon is the letter n, the N letter that we talked about earlier. I said earlier that Japanese cannot have consonants written by themselves. The exception to this is the consonant n. The reason why is that it's sort of seen as a semi-vowel in Japanese. The letter n has multiple different pronunciations depending on its preceding consonant. If there is no consonant after n, it will always be pronounced as a nasal ng sound. Man, man. Kyojin, kyojin. If there is a ka or a ga sound, it will also be pronounced as a nasal ng sound. Sangatsu, sangatsu. Ginko, ginko. If there is a P, B, or an M sound, the letter N will be pronounced as an M. Sampo, sampo. Bimbo, bimbo. Hamma, hamma. If there is a vowel, or ya, you, or yo, N will be pronounced as a nasal y sound. Seien, seien. Honyaku, honyaku. Funiki, funiki. If there is any other sound after n, it will just be pronounced as an n in English. Sensei, sensei. dento, dento, tencho, tencho. That is it for the hiragana and katakana. As I mentioned earlier, the best way to learn these is to use a spaced repetition method with flashcards. If you're not sure how to set that up, watch my video about how to use Anki. There are links to the card decks for hiragana and katakana there. Make sure to learn them properly, especially the hiragana, because in our Japanese course, I'm only going to be using hiragana, katakana, and later kanji for everything. There will be no romaji at all. So make sure you're prepared for that. That's all for this video. The link to the Japanese course is in the description if you're watching this on YouTube, and I will see you in the next video. Mata ne!